Hello and welcome to the Coach Me Vancouver podcast. My name is Nadine Stiller and we're recording live from downtown Vancouver. We are the one-stop community space for you to meet and book your local coaches who will help you thrive and take your life, career, or company to the next level. Today's guest is Faris Khalifeh, a coach for values-driven introverts. Faris is a passionate connector, feminist, minimalist, introvert, and lifelong learner. He coaches values-driven introvert entrepreneurs to overcome the challenges they face and leverage their natural way of being. Together with his clients, he'll work through a series of personalized exercises and assessments to help uncover who they really are and build on their own natural strengths to thrive in business and in life. Named among the top 6 life coaches in Vancouver by Crowd Wellness, he coaches clients from all around the world with different backgrounds, cultures, and industries, focusing on uncovering what is true and unique about them and assist in building on their key strengths. Additionally, he teaches business, leadership, and personal development courses at various colleges, runs multiple mastermind groups, leadership roundtables, and facilitates corporate trainings and seminars. He's a former member of the board of directors for the Vancouver International Coach Federation, also known as ICF, as well as founder of the Vancouver Quiet Leadership Community, where he hosts monthly events to support quiet leaders and entrepreneurs. So check out coachmevancouver.com/book to connect with Faris for a free initial coaching session. All client stories mentioned in this podcast have either been approved for use or been altered to not be identifiable. In today's podcast, we're discovering how you can find out if you're an introvert or extrovert. Beware, you might be surprised. We find out about the unique strengths of introverts and how to truly embrace those strengths. We'll also learn how awareness will lead you to higher confidence and productivity, more compassion, better communication and relationships at home as well as at work. And to top it all off, we'll also be busting some myths about introversion. Hello, Faris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. I love having you here too. Go for it.
All right. So I'll start on a personal level. I'm a minimalist. I'm a feminist, an introvert, highly sensitive person. I have a baby, Sammy, and married to a lovely wife, Reem. I'm originally from the Middle East. Was born in Jordan, grew up in Dubai, then moved to Vancouver here with my wife. In terms of business, I coach introverts to build on their strength as quiet leaders. I do that in different ways. I do one-on-one sessions with clients to help them through this journey, and I do also corporate training and some group coaching.
Mm-hmm. There's lots going on.
Yeah,
you're a busy man.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know about introversion, what is introversion, and how comes you're concentrating on that area?
Yeah, great question. So introversion is a person that gains energy by being by themselves, and they lose energy when they're around stimulating environments. So it could be noise, being in a social event, anything that stimulates the senses drains our energy. And extroverts are the opposite. When they're around stimulation, they get even more excited and energized. So that's the key difference. Of course, it's deeper than that, but on a superficial level or on a very generic level, that's the difference, where we gain and lose energy. And why did I get into this? Is because I discovered I was an introvert probably 7 years ago. And before that, I didn't know what an introvert is. And I'm 40 years old. So 7 years ago, like in my early 30s when I realized that. So it made a lot of sense to me. I used to be in the corporate world, and you can imagine how it is there. It's fast-paced, no breaks, a lot of stimulation. So I used to feel tired all the time. And that was hindering my productivity and efficiency. So I always explored to see what's going on. So I thought it's something like physical. So I used to go to doctors, do blood work and all that, and everything was fine. So it was a mystery. Until that day when I discovered I'm an introvert, it all made sense to me. Why I used to feel depleted is because I wasn't taking breaks, for example. I was always around stimulating environments. So that made a huge difference to me. Actually, it changed. I don't want to be too dramatic, but it's almost changed my life because it affected my professional level, on a professional level, on a personal level, etc. So that's why I wanted to work with, to specialize in working with introverts, to help them through that journey, to discover who they are and learn the tools to help them navigate this loud, extroverted world.
Mm-hmm. Touching on this, there's also a range, right? You're not just it's not like you're black and white introverts, extroverts. There's a range as far as I understand, right?
Thank you for bringing this up. Definitely. It's a spectrum. And it depends where you fall on the spectrum. So it's not black and white. It's not either you're extrovert or introvert. You could be someone in between. And there's depth to it. Like if you go with Myers-Briggs, for example, that's a personality assessment tool. It breaks it even on a very complicated level. Like it goes deeper. How do you process information? How do you like to structure your day? How do you respond to the environment around you? So there's a lot to it. But to keep it simple at this level is, introversion, extroversion, and there's a spectrum, depends where you fall on the spectrum. And believe it or not, it's something we're born with. Like science proves that we're born, because it's more than just saying it's a personality type. It's in our biology. It's how our brain is wired, the way we process information, and the neural pathways has something to do with it, and how we get access to dopamine as well. So that's why we're born with it. However, the principle nurture and nature. So of course, if someone like works on trying to change themselves or work in certain areas, it can be altered, but initially it's in our core.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing, one or the other isn't better or worse than the other, right? It's about being aware of where you fall. It's just the same as what's your communication type, or are you a morning or an evening person?
Exactly. Thank you for bringing this up. There's no right or wrong here. It's not like one personality is better than the other. Extroverts, they have their own qualities and strength and blind spots, of course, and same with introverts. So just simply we're different personality types. And like you said, it's about being aware and how can you utilize this information. How can you capitalize on your own strength? So my philosophy is not trying to be someone you're not. So let's say you're an introvert. It's not about seeing it as a negative thing and then you want to change that. I would suggest then, what are the key strengths for being an introvert? We're great listeners, for example. We have a sense of curiosity. We're calm. We're empathetic. I'm not saying now every introvert needs to have these qualities, but generally speaking. So if you have these qualities, capitalize on them, and how can you use them to your advantage? And same, of course, for extroverts. Utilize your own strength. So the idea is know yourself and embrace who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and all in a very authentic way.
Exactly.
Right? And it usually starts with yourself. It usually starts with self-awareness, and then maybe even communicating that outside to people who might not either be aware themselves or kind of, why are you always with a book in the corner?
Yeah.
Family events or at, I don't know, why are you always the one who's writing everything down in team meetings? And it's like, yeah, that's what I do. That's my strength.
Exactly. That's a great point, because after the self-discovery, once you understand yourself and you're confident of who you are and embracing who you are, then the next step is to communicate that. Because if you're aware but people not aware, that will create some maybe conflict or miscommunication, like you said. So maybe family members, they're wondering why, I don't know, our son is sitting by himself in the room and not with us. But if they understand the personality type and the reason he's doing or she's doing that is because they maybe were stimulated beforehand and now it's time for them to take some time off. Or at work, if someone, again, like sitting by themselves at lunchtime, nothing personal. Doesn't mean they're not team players. Doesn't mean any of that. It just, that person needs that hour of the day to be by themselves to get energized so they can go back to work and be productive. So once they understand that differences, that will avoid miscommunication and people start appreciating each other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so how did coaching come into all of this? I know you've done some coaching training, right? And it's part of what you do every single day. So what's your the introversion journey? We've got this covered. What's the coaching side?
Yeah, so it's interrelated. So when I was in the corporate world, mainly in the advertising world, like I mentioned, understanding myself was a big aha moment. And then the second aha moment was when I it was there, or just put it to the surface, that I'm passionate about coaching. I knew about that since I was a teenager. I'm into self-development and self-growth, and that's all the books I was reading when I was a teenager. But I never thought of pursuing it as a career. So the time when I started realizing who I am, I also realized, all right, I'm passionate about coaching, and why don't I take it on a professional level? So that's the time when I decided to leave my corporate job and go to a coaching school. So I went to Rhodes Wellness College. It's based here in Vancouver, and it has a counseling program and coaching. So I did both. I knew I don't want to be a counselor, but I wanted to learn the skills of a counselor. It was intensive program, 1 year, every day, 9 to 5. Once I'm finished with the program, I started my business, and I started as a life coach the first few months. And then when it hit me, all right, since now I understand introversion, why don't I focus my coaching on introverts? And that's when I thought, all right, I want to coach value-driven introverts, either like corporate or individuals that they want to understand themselves. They want to have better understanding of their personality type and how can they capitalize on themselves. So that's how it all started.
Mm-hmm. And what does value-driven introverts mean?
Yeah,
something tangible.
Yeah, thank you. People that are, so I know it's going a niche into a niche. So value-driven means people that they know what they value in life. So they're basing everything they do on their values. So that's where I thought of, all right, let me work with those introverts that they have understanding of themselves and they're value driven. That's how they navigate life based on their top values. And the reason maybe I touched on value based driven introverts, because at that point I was working with entrepreneurs as well. So I wanted entrepreneurs that they have a business that's value driven to work with them as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. It is a niche, but you know what you want and who your customers are, and that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you have a new coachee coming to you, and or for people who are listening in right now and who might not know that they're introverts, what would be like some questions that you'd ask them, to find out, where they are maybe on the spectrum or where to go? Is there something that, it's like maybe 2-3 questions that the listeners can scribble down right now on piece of paper and, ponder over later on?
Yeah, there's formal kind of questions, but to make it fun, the most basic question is to think for yourself. Say, let's say you were at a networking event, and it's a 2-hour networking event, and you're there, you're socializing with people, and then the event is over. What's the first thing comes to your mind? Do you want to go home and be alone, or you want to go out for after drinks with the people at that event? If you want to go home, that's a sign you're an introvert, because probably that stimulation in the event drained you, and now you want to go somewhere quiet to energize yourself. But if you're an extrovert, probably after the networking event, you're even more energized. You have more energy than the energy you came in with. So now you want to do something else, like going out for a dinner. So that's a sign. That's a fun sign. But if you want to go a bit technical, it's hard to assess from the outside because it's all based on energy and it's internal. You'll be surprised. Like, there's many famous people. Let's say Oprah. She's an introvert. People assume she's an extrovert. So that proves it's hard to tell from the outside. But the common things, we like to be, we want time for ourselves to get energized. Another common generic signs, we love journaling, we love reflecting, introspection. We're great listeners, we're curious. So if you have these characteristics, maybe you might be an introvert. The easiest way and the most accurate way to do it is to do the assessment test, which is the Myers-Briggs. And then you have like a breakdown of all these details.
Yeah. There's the Myers-Briggs. You'd have to, it's the most detailed and the most acknowledged there, right?
Yeah.
But you have to pay a bit for it. And we'll put a link to that test in the podcast show notes so everyone can look into it. I believe there's some other tests that don't.
16personalities.com.
Great. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great site. So it's free based on Myers-Briggs. It's accurate enough. So it's a good starting point. Usually I tell my clients if they don't want to pay for an assessment test to start with 16 personalities.
Okay.
That it gives you a breakdown and show you where you are on the spectrum.
Okay. Great. Well, there you go. We'll pop that in the show notes too. And can you tell us about a recent coaching experience that, without obviously identifying the client that you had, and that's always very important. But is there some a recent experience that left you very proud or inspired, and you care to share?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. For me, there's many of them. The ones that stand out for me are when the client get a aha moment that first that they're introverts. Sometimes they're not aware, like I wasn't aware 7 years ago. So that's a big aha moment. The second is they know, but they're for some reason, because of the culture and society and the bias, they're ashamed of expressing that or embracing that. So they come to me almost like telling me as if there's a flaw, like I'm an introvert, fix me. I want to be an extrovert. And then we work together on reframing how you see yourself as an introvert. That's not a bad thing. But there's a lot of conditioning that it's ingrained in their mind that it's a bad thing. Because probably even when they were kids, their parents would tell them, speak up, why you're shy, why are you shy, that's a different topic, but shyness and introversion, they're not the same thing. So they keep hearing these negative associations with being quiet, so they're ashamed of that. So when I work with them and they manage to get out of that cycle or belief, inaccurate belief about themselves and about introversion, and they start embracing their personality type, it's powerful. And I love to see that transformation. They become authentic. They're proud of themselves. They know how to manage their days because now they're managing their energy. They have the tools to help them to stay energized, like meditation, mini breaks, and many other tools like that. And then sometimes some of them take it even to the next level where they communicate that to their, let's say, team members and tell them who they are. And then their manager would start understanding why they need the time to come up, let's say, in a brainstorming session. If they want to come with an idea, they need, like, I don't know, more time than the other extroverts. So they start understanding these subtle things and makes a big difference on their personal and professional life.
They become more confident as well, right?
Yes.
Because all of that self-compassion for themselves of who they are, their self-love, right? And it's a lot more so that there's the confidence level that goes up, and productivity as well. If you know that you have, how to manage your energy levels, and you can be who you essentially are, you're not hiding anything or think that something is wrong. It frees up all that creativity and that productivity inside you. And so, that's great.
Imagine how draining it is for someone to pretend they're an extrovert all day. That's so draining. And many people do that. I used to do that in the corporate world without knowing, trying to be someone I'm not. And the second piece, which I find interesting, it not always, most of the time goes back to the actual romantic relationship. It's another aha moment. Oh, now I get it. Now my husband wants to be by himself for, I don't know, on the weekend for 2 hours. Now I understand why my husband doesn't want to go to party after work. So that start also helping them, if someone is in a relationship, start helping them in the relationship, understanding each other as partners.
So people who come to you, would they already identify as an introvert? Like, is that it, or do you help them in that sense already?
So different people come to you. Some people, they know they're introverts, but they think it's a bad thing. So they come to me almost like, fix me. And then I reframe that and I tell them there's nothing to fix, but we can look at this differently. Or some people understand they're introverts and they're okay with that, but they need help in certain areas, like regular stuff, like work or relationships or regular life coaching. And then the third, they don't know. And then through the process, they'll learn more about their personality type.
Mm-hmm.
And some extroverts come and see me. That's not all the time, sometimes. And I find that's interesting. They're curious to learn about the people that they work with. Or if they're in a relationship with an introvert and they're extroverts, they're curious.
Wow, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Wow. So are these the type of people that are seeking out, or is there anyone else, any other kind of clientele that you say, hey, please come and talk to me?
Yeah, the other one's the corporate. So companies, either I reach out to them or they reach out to me about how can we identify the different personality types on the team, and how can we capitalize on that and make them work more effectively together. Mm-hmm. Because that makes a huge difference when team members, they know each other and then they focus on their key strengths. So each role will have the people that are good at that thing. Mm-hmm. So if someone, let's say, is a P, based on Myers-Briggs, that person is not great at, the superpower is not about organizing and creating Excel sheets and all that. However, at J, that's their thing. So why give someone that's not great at, let's say, numbers and structure, and why not give it to the right person? So once they start understanding that, there's more productivity within the team and less conflict, because now when someone doesn't engage in a conversation, they don't take it personally. They understand that person is just reflecting. They need time. They need their own process, etc. Mm-hmm. And same for introverts. When an extrovert in the room takes the lead and they start talking, and they don't take it negatively, like that person's trying to take over. Because extroverts, they think out, they process information by thinking out loud. So once you understand these, it seems simple, but it adds up. When you start understanding these differences, there's a better cohesion between team members.
Yeah, and again, it's along the lines of concentrate on your strengths and just manage your weaknesses, but don't try to play them up, because you're never ever going to get that energy, that positive, engaging energy from a weakness than you have from something that you truly enjoy, and it's your passion. So it's, again, by understanding yourself better, have that awareness, concentrate on these things that actually give you all that energy, right? And
love
have
it.
fun.
Yeah.
Play to your strengths.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So what's your coaching style and approach? Do you have one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I follow the ICF, International Coaching Federation approach to coaching, which it's client-centered. So I don't have an agenda. The clients, they come to me and I work with their challenges, and I ask questions, and they tend to get their own conclusions while I'm asking these questions. However, I give them the option of starting to uncover 4 things which I find are important. What are your key top values? What is your why? What's your personality type? And what are your strengths in terms of Strength Finder? So I use the assessment Strength Finder and Myers-Briggs for the personality and strength. Values, I have a different exercise, and the why, which is based on Sinek. Start with the why. So I find this a fundamental to move forward. Because once you have clarity on who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, what's your personality type, what are your key strengths, and then we move from there. So I usually recommend starting with identifying these areas and then moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to basics.
Yeah.
Get the self-awareness out
Yes.
there, and then see how you can move forward and accept who you are.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Next question is about your job in general. What do you love about it?
What I love about it is seeing the transformation that happens to my clients. That's one. 2, removing that myth about introversion as a negative thing and start seeing it as a positive thing. That's a big one, because there's a lot of misconception. And believe it or not, I face that day to day, that people till today either don't understand what it means to be an introvert, or if because of their misconception, they either hide it, dismiss it. Sometimes some companies don't hire certain introverts for certain positions intentionally, because they think, how can an introvert do this role? Because of this misunderstanding. So there's a lot of myths and misunderstanding. So I feel part of my work, especially my talks and workshops, to educate people on the differences between different personality types and how to capitalize on them. So that's what I love the most. And it's lots of work. So I'm not going to deny it's the same amount of work I used to do in the corporate world. So it's not less. Sometimes people think because I'm self-employed, I work less or I have flexible hours and all that. It's not. But the difference is it's more fulfilling. The other one draining without fulfillment. And this one is as much, but fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Great. And that's what you ultimately, want and love about, doing that every single day. You actually love what you love what you're doing and doing what you love. Coming back on some of the myths, I attended one of your workshops a long time ago, sometime last summer.
Yeah.
And one of the myths that you kind of tackled and busted right away was about people, introverts being in sales roles that I wasn't necessarily so aware of myself. And I thought I already knew quite a bit about introversion, but again, that was a learning opportunity for me then too. Do you mind explaining that on the
sure.
sales and introverts?
Yeah. That comes a lot, especially in the corporate world and people in sales positions or entrepreneurs thinking that sales positions are only for extroverts. And I don't want to say it's opposite, but it's not accurate, because sales has nothing to do with being extrovert or introverted. Because now if you go to the definition, and it's based on Carl Jung definition, so it's not mine, is where you gain and lose energy. So if you think about it from that angle, then how is that relevant to being in sales or not? And especially these days, sales is all about listening, right? It's maybe people think it's about talking, but it's not. It's about listening to your clients to understand their needs and wants, their challenges, what they're going through. And once you do the listening, you're going to ask questions, and the questions that will help them for you to understand what they want and what they're going through in order to help them. So the last piece of the sales is the talking, because once you understand them and you ask your questions, then you're going to propose a service or a product based on their needs. So, and introverts, they're of course good at listening and generally speaking. And so that's an advantage. Mm-hmm. There's so many research out there. One of them done by Adam Grant and his colleagues. You can Google that. Just say Adam Grant, introvert sales. And it's a deep study about, they interviewed people, salespeople, and they wanted to see if there's a correlation between being an introvert or extrovert, and there was no correlation. And the reason why there's no correlation is because if you go back to the definition of an introvert or an extrovert, is where we gain and lose energy. So once someone understands that, then they can capitalize on their own strength, which is in sales. What's important to listen to your prospects, to your clients, ask them questions, and build rapport, empathize. And once you ask questions, you understand what are the key challenges they're going through. And then based on that understanding, you provide the service that fits their need, right? So probably 80% of that sales conversation is listening and asking questions.
Mm-hmm. And then the research based on that. And again, that plays to introverts' strengths. So, okay, great. Thank you for busting that myth.
You're welcome.
Do you have a favorite book or a quote that you'd like to share with the listeners? And do you have a story around that?
What comes to my mind on a quote which I like: wherever you go, there you are. The meaning of that no matter what you do, where you go, or if you think that the external environmental aspects causing your distress isn't accurate. Because let's say you live in a certain city and you say, I'm miserable because I live in this city. Then you move to another city and then you're miserable again. So it doesn't matter. So that's why I like it, because if you break it down, it's again to understand yourself. Once you know yourself, what you value, what's important to you in your life, and just being authentic and loving yourself, then it doesn't matter how things around you, like if you're in the right city or not, or in the right job or not. Of course, there will be elements to that, but once you know yourself and you love yourself, it doesn't matter where you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Do you know by whom that quote is?
No.
Okay, I'll Google it. I ask our friend Google and put it in the show notes too.
Awesome.
Great. That's what that's there for. Yay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're coming to the last part of the session, and that's the questions in a box. You can pick 3. You can obviously see what is on them, what question. It doesn't really play to your introversion because you can't really prepare. Do you have 3?
3 cards?
Great. Yeah,
Okay.
you can read one of them, like question number 1 out, and then answer.
All right.
Ooh, question number 1.
What is your superpower? That's an awesome question. And I know my superpower, and it sounds cheesy, but I know my superpower is being an introvert, and specifically INFP. So I have high intuition and creative and a feeler. And I'm also a highly sensitive person. So all that together gives me my superpower because, I rely on my intuition and all the other aspects of my personality.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
it's you.
Yeah.
And the abbreviations are again based on the Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And what's interesting about these assessment is the more you do, like the other day I did Enneagram, which is new to me, and the result was I'm the peacemaker, type 9. So it's interesting. Every time I do an assessment from a different modality, it gives the same meaning in a different word, and makes me happy. That means it's aligned. It's accurate.
Good. Perfect. Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. Faris was just showing the peace sign. That's why we started laughing about it. That's cool. Yeah. And, we know who to call.
Yeah. So if there's a conflict, call me.
Got your number. Perfect. Great. Question number 2.
Oh, I'm going to answer the 3 of them?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm panicking. What is your dream? Whoa, that's deep. I have too many, but...
world domination, world peace as the peacemaker.
World peace for sure. Yeah, I know it's going to sound cheesy again, but yeah, peace in general. Because why do we need negativity and war and conflict? As a peacemaker myself, with my personality, I don't like conflicts. So it makes sense. That will be one of my dreams.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you for sharing. And I know it's a deep coaching question.
Exactly.
And usually, people need a bit of time for it, or even that might be a question that you take with you and think about to come back at a later stage, right? So I'm aware I put you on the spot with that question, and it's
that's a good
especially
question.
as an introvert.
Yeah, like you said, introverts, they like to reflect on the question before. They don't like to be put on the spot. And you put me on the spot. I'm joking.
It was a good answer, though.
Yeah.
Okay. And question number 3.
What is one of your quirks? Like something funny about...
Yeah, that maybe people think it's a bit... Yeah, that's so you.
Sometimes I do things unpredictable, like they're based on my personality once in a while. Like, let's say when I quit my corporate job without a backup plan, that's out of the blue. It's not consistent with my personality. Moving to Vancouver, just made a decision and made it happen. So I think, these kind of things that comes once in a while, and it's not consistent with who I am. Usually I'm the person with structure, not structure, but more of a plan.
Yeah. But then that, because it's aligned with who you are, you kind of make it work, and it's very driven, right? You do it and then make it work.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that. I was telling you, like what you're doing with your business. You just do it. I am a big believer of that. If you have something in mind, you want to do it, just do it and not sleep on it for ages. Yeah.
Hence Vancouver. The idea for me to move here was pretty, that didn't actually take that long. The planning behind it, but the decision making, no, that was pretty clear. And the same with the business. No, it aligned with a lot of things that I value again, and it feels right. So here we are.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So decisions quick, then the planning that takes that time.
Yeah, I guess that's my maybe typical Germanness coming through, plan everything, and then the learned thing is that you can't control everything. You can only give it your best, and then take it from there. You can only influence that much, and you have to have a bit of flexibility in there, and surf the waves, whatever's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Well done.
Well, thank you very much for your time
welcome.
today, Faris, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Head over to coachmevancouver.com/book to book an initial free coaching session with Faris and find out how he will help you succeed as an introvert. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay curious.